A TikToker mom seemingly vanished after a Walmart shopping trip, and her last sign of life was this really eerie message that was sent from her phone to her boyfriend the night she disappeared. But then you fast forward 1 week after her disappearance, and her body was found. With her alleged killer now behind bars, we're going to break down the complexities of this case with criminal defense attorney Meg Strickler. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. We have a really tragic situation that we want to talk to you about out of Georgia, and a strange one too. So we're talking about 25-year-old fitness TikToker Manelis Zoe Rodriguez Ramirez, who's called Mimi by her friends and family. She went on a shopping trip to Walmart that she never returned from. Her fiance says that he received a suspicious text from her phone just days before she was found dead near that Walmart store in Cornelia, Georgia. This is a small town that's northeast of Atlanta. On the night of October 22nd, Manelis reportedly went to the Walmart to sell someone a photo she had taken. Not entirely clear what that was about, but according to a cashier, Manelis entered the store at around 9:30 p.m. and she was texting her fiance, Julio Tovar, while she was in the store. Eventually, Tovar went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and saw that she hadn't come home. And when he checks his phone, he sees this text message reportedly from Manelis' phone that just didn't look right to him. It read, "I am waiting for the brother to pick him up." Now, Tovar told the news outlet Now Habersham that this made him kind of suspicious because Manelis didn't really talk like that. So a search was launched that same day, and authorities began to uncover clues as to what happened to this missing mother. Well, first of all, they found Manelis' vehicle pulled over to the side of the road near that Walmart on Hazel Creek Road. Then, according to Now Habersham, witnesses told them that they saw a dark-colored SUV and a gold or yellow minivan next to Manelis' vehicle at some point in time. Then, a few days later, and before they had even found her body, authorities arrested this man, 24-year-old Angel de Jesus Rivera Sanchez, on charges of kidnapping related to Manelis' disappearance. And it was just 1 day after this that the search for Manelis came to a tragic end. Police discovered her remains in a remote area across from that Walmart. Officials said they were able to identify her by her very distinctive tattoos. Now, obviously, there are many unanswered questions here. First of all, it's unclear who she was actually meeting up with at this Walmart. Second, we don't know if her alleged encounter was with this suspect. Was it with somebody else? Was this random? Was there any kind of connection between her and the person who has been arrested? And we also don't know the cause or the manner of Manelis' death yet, as we're waiting for the GBI medical examiner's office to release the findings of that autopsy. But what we do know is that following the discovery of her remains, the GBI indicated that they intend to hold Rivera Sanchez accountable for this crime. According to their official press release, Angel de Jesus Rivera Sanchez, 24, also of Cornelia, will be charged with murder in connection to Rodriguez Ramirez's death. He was booked into the Habersham County Detention Center. He could be facing more charges, we'll see. And Manelis, though, I will tell you, she had more than 20,000 followers on TikTok. That's substantial. And she regularly posted on the app, including on the day that she went missing. And I mentioned that she's a mother. She was the mother of a 9-year-old daughter, and she had moved to Georgia from Puerto Rico 6 years ago after being offered a job at a manufacturing company, Mount Vernon Hills, Inc. Her fiance told Habersham Now that Manelis treasured her daughter, talked about her often. In one video posted just days before her disappearance, she even spoke of her dreams for her. So you're just seeing this as a really sad situation, and a strange one. Hey, by the way, thank you for staying with us as we cover this story. I know it's not an easy one to hear, but it is an important one, and we always appreciate that. And look, I got to call out our sponsors, because it's with their support that we're able to continue to do this. And with that, I got to highlight our incredible partner, Morgan & Morgan. If you should get injured, America's largest injury law firm, They may be who you want in your corner. I mean, Morgan & Morgan has a dedicated team of over 1,000 attorneys. They have case specialists, paralegals, investigators. They have an amazing track record. I'm talking recent verdicts of $12 million in Florida, $6.8 million in New York, $26 million in Philadelphia. All of these, mind you, considerably higher than the highest insurance offers in these cases. There's no upfront fee. The whole process can be done straight from your smartphone. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC Sidebar. So I want to bring in criminal defense attorney from Atlanta, Georgia, Meg Strickler, to talk more about this. Meg, thanks so much for coming on. First of all, this area where this happened, talk to me what you know about it or don't know about it.
Yeah, it's up in the northeast corner of Georgia, and yeah, I've been practicing here in Georgia for, a good minute. So I've been to this county a few times. I don't want to say a lot of times, and I had to look it up again. We have 158 counties in this state. So when I'm called about a client, I almost always whip out my map to see where this is. So it's rural. It's a bit, we call it mountainous. I know other states might giggle over that, but it's in the Georgia foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. So we call it mountains because in Atlanta it's flat. So it's a very pretty area. There's some pretty falls there, but it is a small town. So the fact that they're all from the same town makes me think there's much more to this story than what we're initially hearing. She perhaps knew this individual.
What do you think is going on here? I mean, the idea of going to a Walmart to sell a photo, she winds up dead. There's the weird text message. What are you thinking?
I can guarantee the Celebrate report that's taken from her phone and from the individual who was arrested's phone is going to be pivotal here because there's GPS coordinates on our phone. There's, this is my phone. There's GPS coordinates. There's our text messages. There's the TikTok messages. There's the Instagram messages. There's all the direct messages. That's on the phone, and they can download it into a 100,000-page document and then search on it. So this will be, I think, the key. Okay. Also, the car that was found abandoned, if it's a newer car, there's like a black box on cars these days. So it'll tell you the coordinates of where the car had been. Not all cars have it yet, but we're in 2024. We're getting there. So I didn't read in any part of the researching this case, how old the car was or these kinds of things. But that's what the GBI is doing right now. And also video. There's videos everywhere. Walmart parking lots, you better believe there's video. And also, I didn't understand we're selling a photo. There's more to that story too. Well, what does that even mean? I don't understand that part.
The fact that her body was found a week later and it was so close to the Walmart, is that strange to you?
That is strange and very, very sad. I don't understand that. And maybe there was something like a red herring that made law enforcement look over here and didn't think to look over here. That happens in investigations. They have an investigative thread and they just keep going down that thread, and they didn't think to look over here. That's the only thing I can think of, is that they were really focusing on something else. And then when they started to realize it was this individual, they started looking over here. And you notice the time frame. He's arrested, and the next day they find her remains. There's some, my guess is some information they were able to ascertain from him.
From him, right? Because so he's brought up on kidnapping charges, then her body's found, and now there's talk about him being charged with murder. You think he might have revealed something?
Yeah, or his phone again, or family members, or just more talking to folks. I mean, we don't know. Who knows? Because you remember, the law enforcement's canvassing. So they went to the Walmart and they're talking to employees, and perhaps maybe some employee that hadn't worked that day when law enforcement came now returned the call to the GBI investigator. You really don't know what tipped it. But I mean, you and I can both guess. I think it was he who, when spoken to, accidentally let something slip. As you know, and I know both, that the worst thing to do is to talk. Just when you're a defendant.
Well, I mean, from a prosecutor's point of view and a law enforcement point of view, they would love a suspect to talk. I did find it strange. So the cashier says that she entered the Walmart, but then, Manelis' car is found on the side of the road, not in the parking lot. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that's the part where I think the video surveillance may be very helpful, because there's cameras within Walmart. So we might see her here, here, and here. We're going to look for the receipts, the cashier receipts. Did she check out? Did she drive somewhere? There's a big mystery there. Or did the person that was arrested move her car once she was murdered to try to throw off investigators? And that even shows that if that is the case and it's proven, then that makes this gentleman, that case, much more difficult to defend, because it's showing intent with respect to murdering her, but then intent to cover it up. And no one can argue any kind of heat of the moment or anything like this if you went ahead and cleaned up after yourself. Makes it look much more awful.
I have to ask you about this text message, right? So Mr. Tover goes to sleep, wakes up the next morning, sees that Manelis is not home, checks his phone, and then he sees this text message that is apparently from Manelis's phone, but of course we don't know if it was from her, if it was from somebody else. And again, I'm going to reiterate it, I'm waiting for the brother to pick him up. I find that to be a strange aspect of that story. I don't know even what that means.
Well, I have a suspicion that it will mean something, because Tover pointed it out, because it's out in the media, and because it's so bizarre. We all text amongst each other, and there are times we might text something like by accident to, I might text you when I'm meant to text my daughter. These things occur, but then there's context with whom I'm supposed to be texting. So I don't think that's what occurred. I think she was talking in some sort of code to try to help, that I'm in trouble here, please help. That's how I read it. Doesn't mean I'm right.
And by the way, going back to the car, because there's so many different aspects of the story, I don't even know what I want to focus on first, but the car, right? So it ends up on the side of the road, and witnesses say they saw other vehicles alongside it. You mentioned the surveillance footage. What do you think's happening there in trying to identify who those vehicles are, who is driving them, right? I imagine that's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, and hopefully this is in a more active part of the town. When you get into rural Georgia, there are parts, where the roads are doing this and there's trees and there's houses that are far away. If it's in that part, we're not going to have too many cameras. But if it's in where the town square is, so to speak, there's going, and where Sitcos are and where, Quick Trips are or whatever, that's what our gas stations are called down here. There could very well be some surveillance from the gas stations, from residences, their Ring doorbells. They're knocking on every door for the entire route. They're mapping out the route on a big board, and I kid you not, they do that. And they go and they say, okay, let's see who might have video surveillance. And they run out immediately to try to get that, because all of the companies out there will recycle the video. So then they sometimes it gets deleted. So that's like one of the first things they do, is to go knock on people's doors, so to speak, especially residences. When we have just your basic rings, that video is going to get disappeared more quickly than, say, a commercial business. So that's step one. Step two is to run the VINs on all of those cars. Who do they belong to? And then go contact them. I mean, it's a lot of legwork, but that's what law enforcement does. And they're going to get all of this and put it into a big pile and say, okay, what do we have on this tapestry, and what is it have we drawn, and what do we know? And then the key part is they've got to start getting to the point of trial, which will be 3 years from now, getting the evidence today while it's still fresh. That's the key pivotal part. And it's a lot of stress and work on law enforcement, and they usually do a really good job.
I wanted to ask you this about the fact that he might be charged with murder, right? So what are the requirements to charge somebody with murder in this kind of situation? Is it multiple charges of murder? Would they be charged with first-degree murder? Would they be charged with felony murder? So if it was killing during the course of a kidnapping? Talk to me about what we can expect there.
Yeah, that's a good question. And that is, again, down the line. Right now, they're arresting charges. So there's going to be murder. He's going to be put in jail, and he probably won't be able to bond out because those charges are not bondable. And he can get out if he's got a great lawyer who can argue that he'll be fine on bond. It's a rarity with murder. It can occur, but it's a rarity. So I don't think he's getting out. But what you're asking is when it's formally charged in an indictment, and that's kind of a strategical decision on the prosecutor's part. Do they want to stack the charges and have like 15 charges, like you said? Could be abuse of corpse. It could be the kidnapping. Could be felony murder. Could be aggravated assault. Could be aggravated battery. I mean, we don't know what does the body show? Like, how was she murdered? I mean, are there bullets? Is there strangulation? Is there suffocation? I mean, we don't know those details. But when all those come, the prosecutor decides I mean, honestly, how they're going to secure a conviction, which charges will really work. And each prosecutor's office marches to a different drum, or some love to add a billion. Okay, because then as a defense lawyer, excuse me, as a juror, they're like, oh, they're guilty. They have 42 charges. Some like to just charge one. And it really is kind of a, I don't even know how to describe it. Sometimes it just depends. I know that's
Sure.
not really a great answer, but it's the truth.
Well, let me ask you this. What about the idea of when we're going to get more information about what happened to her? How does the GBI usually work? How do they work in terms of releasing information about her cause of death? I'm sure the family would be notified before the general public and the media, but what can we expect and when can we expect it?
There should be a preliminary hearing scheduled at some point. I did not Google that to find out if that's been scheduled yet, but since he is arrested and he won't get out on bond, there should be a preliminary hearing. That's what happens here in Georgia. Every state's different. I'm licensed in a couple of states. So here in Georgia, we do a thing called a preliminary hearing, probable cause hearing, same term of art. And if the lawyer who represents him says, I want to have the preliminary hearing, we love those because we can then do like information gathering. That's
You
what
mean
I
defense
want
attorneys?
to do.
Defense attorneys love
Yes,
that. Yeah.
yes. We love those because we're able to, and I won't say bend the rules, but I try my hardest to limit the discovery right then and there. So I'll ask the detective video, audio, these kinds of things, and I get them to limit themselves on formal testimony so that then when I go back at trial 3 years later, I can then cross-examine him and impeach him on what he said earlier on. I know I'm getting too intricate here, but it is one of my favorite things to do. And in my career, I wish we had more of them, but you know, it is what it is. With that said, sometimes we waive them. And that seems to be more the norm today, so it won't happen. So you're asking, when will we get information? If a prelim is had, we're going to get some good data, some information, some hows, wheres, and whats.
Why would someone waive it?
Well, a lot of times, not necessarily murder, but other cases a little lower, we waive it because the prosecutor holds it against us. I'm just giving my personal opinion. I'm very cynic towards prosecution, as you hear me. That we will waive it because they'll say, I'll let your guy out in bond if you waive the prelim. Okay, fine, I waive it. I mean, easy breezy. In murder cases, sometimes we may waive it if there's something else going on that the prosecutor, we would kind of agree this is the better way of doing it. And so it's behind the scenes, another strategical decision on our part whether or not to waive it.
Well, talking about behind the scenes, I'll let everybody know the GBI is still seeking answers in this case. They're urging anybody with information to contact their tip line. So we're going to put the number on the screen there for you in case you have any information. And you can also submit any tips online at the GBI's official website page. We're obviously going to have more updates for you in this investigation as it develops, because it's so strange. It's very eerie, very sad. Meg Strickler, thank you so much for coming on, breaking it down for us. Really, really appreciate your perspective and your expertise on this. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.